Good morning. So far, so good, right? What a great day. And I'm convinced that this morning we're going to have a continued time and just listen and hearing from the Lord. My name is Ken, and I'm glad to be here today. And my wife, Lori, she stood here and led worship just a little while ago. Yeah, awesome team today, for sure. My wife, Lori, and I, we've been married for about 38 years. And we have 3 sons and 3 daughter-in-laws, and we just had our 8th grandbaby, right? Any other grandparents in the house? Yeah, you know the crazy, right? It's good. We've been working through a series here at Kesed. By the way, Lori and I go here, and we've been here for some time. I usually sit up on the balcony on Thursday nights, but we also hang out over at Kesed Columbia often as well, so we love everything about Kesed, and the series that we've been going through, the Beatitudes, has been really good. And this morning we're going over the Beatitude that says, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy." It could be the best Beatitude. I think it might be the simplest one to explain and simple to understand for us. To help you understand a little bit about what it means to be merciful, I want to tell you a story that happened to me and my family over the last 4 or 5 years. And in, I think it was 2020, that's that right? Yeah, 2020. The great year. We all had a great year in 2020, right? I got diagnosed with cancer, and it was colorectal cancer. And so while the doctor gave us really good encouragement that it would be something that would be treatable and beatable, the odds weren't super, super high, because they kind of found it late. So the way that they treated my colorectal cancer was they gave me lots and lots of chemotherapy, right? And by the way, how many cancer survivors we have in here? I love you guys. That's awesome. I'm glad there's so few, but you guys matter. So if it's triggering, just bear with me. So lots of chemo. So they gave me a little backpack, and they put a little shunt right here in my chest. And so I walked around with this little, not a backpack, like a fanny pack. And so I was getting chemo all the time, right? And it was just, I had to sleep with it and all that stuff. It wasn't that fun, right? But by far, this was one of the easiest things to deal with. The other thing that I had to do is I had to get radiation. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I would go in and get zapped, right? They put a little tattoo down at a certain spot. They kind of line you up, and it's always interesting, humbling a little bit. They give you a little zap. Of course, you don't feel it, but it has an effect on your life. So about 8 months of that, right, of chemotherapy and radiation. And then what they decided they needed to do was they needed to go in and they needed to cut a section of my colon out. Right? So they cut a section of my colon out. And in order for everything to heal from that part down, right, they had to give me what's called an ileostomy, which is when they make a little incision here and they pull your guts out through your wall of your muscles, and they pull it out there. They give you like a little intentional hernia. They cut a little hole in that, right? And so when you eat, it goes out that little hole that's right here, and that stuff goes into a bag. So that little thing that they make, by the way, that little thing through your skin, is this what you wanted to hear about, by the way? Because if I'm wrong, I just thought you'd be into this, But that little thing that they make, that it's called a stoma. It's a little round, almost like Rudolph's red nose. And it pokes out, and there's a little hole in that. And that's basically how you put this, and you put around that stoma, which is about this big around, you put a bag. And to get that bag and the stoma and everything else to work right was one of the hardest parts of recovering. And we decided, even before I was out of the hospital, Lori was like, "I want to be your stoma queen." Well, she didn't say it that way, but that's what she became. And she learned, and I was so happy to figure out how to make the stoma and the bag work, because the bag would leak We call it a blowout, It's a gusher, but it would leak, and when it leaked, it would be messy, And so this combination of this adhesive and the things that could get on that and infect it, and it, they kind of sewed that to the inside of your stomach. So it was just a wound. It was a wound. Someone had to provide care for that wound for the 6 months or so that I had that bag. And my wife, we had a routine, and it happened 2 or 3 times a week often, where I would do this thing where I would eat marshmallows because the marshmallows would slow things up. I know it sounds like, is that too good to be true? I've got to eat 6 marshmallows, but it would slow things up, and then it would give us time, and because it wouldn't be squirting all the time, and she's trying to fight it, like a radiator leak in a car. And I just got to tell you, my wife, my beautiful wife, with never complaining, There was one aspect that could have been gratifying for her, if in my opinion, is that when she would take the old bag off, because I had hair, I'm a hairy guy right here, there's hair. And when she would pull that off, there was a gleam in her eye. There was I'm sorry, does that hurt? And it was almost too late to figure out that if you pulled it the other way with the hair, it doesn't hurt as bad. But we didn't always understand that. So I want to explain with that example of what mercy is. In fact, if I could, I would drop the mic, which is hard because it's here, and I'd go home and watch the Seahawks, right? Because that is the best example that I could think of someone in my life that demonstrated what mercy means. Jesus said, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy." We've looked at the first 4 Beatitudes so far. I want to read them together. So if you could get those up on the screen. And let's read these Beatitudes. I'm just going to read the first 5, okay? And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, and then you're going to read with me, okay, out loud. Like out loud together so I don't feel alone. It says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy." Let's keep going. "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. And blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." No, the word blessed are those that mourn, blessed are the merciful. The word blessed, in the original language that Jesus used, and also its corresponding Hebrew word in the Old Testament, they both mean to be blessed, happy, or happy and flourishing. Got it? Happy and flourishing. To be blessed is to be happy and flourishing. Jesus was not necessarily describing in all of the Beatitudes a kind of an if-them scenario. Kind of like, if you are merciful, then you'll be blessed, as if being blessed is the goal. And that really wasn't Jesus was teaching. Being happy and flourishing isn't the goal by itself, but it's the natural and spiritual outcome of living the right way that Jesus describes in the Beatitudes. So Jesus is describing someone who is happy and flourishing, who is living their best life. In other words, a disciple that is happy and flourishing and living their best life will be merciful. It describes who we will be as we are walking with the Lord and living that faith out. We will be merciful people. So I think it's good that we sort of would describe mercy and then look at how we can become more merciful and how it's been shown to us. What is mercy? Well, mercy is compassion for people in need. I'm going to give you like several things that it is. So you could pick which one you like, I guess. Mercy is the operations wing of empathy. Mercy is the implementation of love. Mercy is the executive function of a holy assignment. Mercy is pity for the miserable and for those who are cast out. And finally, mercy is the culture of God's people. And man, we hope that mercy continues to be the culture of who we are as a church and what the Lord wants you to be in your own life. That is part of our culture, that we are going to be taking care of people in this way. So it's not just one thing, it's kind of complex. And as we look at the sermon and the precise word that Jesus used, we do see an intent. We see an intent with the word that Jesus used for mercy. So I want to explain it. There's an old theologian named Richard Lenski, and he's long gone to be with the Lord. But the word that he uses, the word for mercy in the text, the word that Jesus used, it always deals with what we see of pain and suffering, not necessarily for what we feel. The word that Jesus used, blessed are those who are merciful, that word has to do with what we see in our real life. And the difference between mercy and grace, because we always see it together and sometimes we think that they're the same word, they're not. They're different in this way. And this is, again, a summary from Lenski, that mercy deals with what we see of distress, and then grace deals with the sin and the guilt itself. Mercy extends relief, and grace forgives. Mercy would cure and help and heal, and grace cleanses and reinstates. Mercy carries the meaning of identification in the suffering of others, of going through something with someone else, of entering into someone else's problem with understanding and kindness and empathy. That's what mercy means. So to be merciful is to see a need, compassionately move to that need, and to do for others what Jesus would want us to do. That's an easy way to understand it, isn't it? So again, a disciple that is happy and flourishing and living their best life will be merciful. So there's three things we want to get to. One, mercy does see. Mercy sees. Two, mercy moves. And three, mercy saves. So mercy sees. Since being merciful deals with what we see, we have to open our eyes. That's the hardest part, is to open our eyes and look around. Merciful people will learn to see things. They look around. They notice. Mercy pays attention. Observant. They look around and see what is really happening all around them. Mercy sees. It looks around and notices. Mercy sees not only with your eyes, but sort of, I guess, with your mind's eye as well. Often it's your intellect and it's your intuition. It's your own empathy and compassion. It's the same instinct that causes us to open a door for a stranger or to help someone that obviously needs help right away. And you're right there. That instinct in us is to help. That's the mercy in you. That's your mercy muscle that really needs to be used and utilized and exercised. Mercy doesn't always ask permission. In fact, I would say mercy doesn't need permission. When you're going across the people in your life, be it someone in your family, someone that you love, a spouse, or a stranger, you don't, in my opinion, you don't ever need permission to be merciful. You just go ahead and show mercy. And trust me, it almost always is going to work. We don't need to ask someone if they need help. If you ask someone if they need help, what do most people say? No, I'm fine. So yeah, I just stopped asking. I just think that works better. And yeah, it is a little rude sometimes, but it's just that sometimes people need us to be kind without asking for it. There's no need to ask everyone, what can I do? Or let me know. Here's the one thing, someone's tragic happens to someone that you love and you say, let me know if you need anything. Well, no one's going to let you know anything with that statement. I know it comes from a good place. Trust me. But let me know if there's anything you do. You're really putting a responsibility on them to, let me make a list for Steve. Here's what I want Steve to do. Steve, could you come mow my lawn? Steve, could you, whatever. Let me know if I can do anything. It would be better, I would be better if I thought, well, I'm going to make my own list and start on that list and see if I could do something that is going to help them out. That's just my take on that. It's about your using your mercy muscle. It takes some courage, but what's the worst thing that could happen? Mercy, as I gave the example with my wife, mercy gets messy. And sometimes we get it wrong. And sometimes we take a step and we think, oh, maybe that was embarrassing, but nevertheless, mercy can be messy. It can be embarrassing. Interesting story. Before the pandemic, I drove Uber, and I really liked driving. I did it for a few months, maybe 6 months. I really liked the late night crowd because Portland was a thing, right? Back in the old days, Portland was really happening, and people were out and they were drinking and they needed a safe way to get home. And I was that safe way to get home for so many people. And that goes deep into my family, my background, what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people get home safe and been out. So I just had the best conversations and the most fun. And no one gave me the memo that people don't want to talk to their Uber driver all the time. So I was a guy trying to talk to them and find out about their life. And it was interesting. One day I picked up from a bar in Portland, I picked up a frumpy young woman. And she got into the car and she sat in the front seat, which is kind of forward. That didn't always happen. And the first thing she did, practically before she sat down, is she grabbed the aux cable for my stereo. And she wanted to play some music. And so she put the aux, she kind of looked at me, she dialed up her phone, and she basically said at that point, sing with me. I think you'll know this one. Sing with me, I think you'll know it, right? People smile and tell me I'm the lucky one. I've just begun. Think I'm going to have a son. She look at me, and the chorus hits. And even though we ain't got money, sing with me. I'm so in love with you, honey. Everything will bring a chain of love. And in the morning when I rise, you bring a tear and joy to my eyes and tell me everything's gonna be all right. Man, we sang that song. I couldn't believe I sang it, and it felt good. I'm not lying. It felt good to sing that song. How did she know that I knew that song, Danny's song from the 70s? I knew it, man, every word. They just came back to me, And she didn't stop there. She wanted me to duet the song Shallows. And I did. I kind of had to pretend that, but it came to the big part. She goes, this is my part right here. Just back off, bro, And she sang like there were thousands of people in the audience. And that was the last song that we sang. We pulled into her driveway. She pulled the cord out of her phone. She looked at me and said, good night. I said, see you later. She left. It was the weirdest, it was the weirdest thing, but because of the lack of conversation and how much I enjoyed it. And, she got out of there and I said, I can't wait to tell my wife what a nice, caring man, Uber driver I was to help this poor girl who was lonely do car karaoke on the way home. Well, of course, it was a couple years later, I was writing this story down. And it occurred to me that her story was a little different, maybe. Maybe her story started out this way. Yeah, my Uber driver showed up. He was a frumpy old man. And he looked a little lonely. And, he sang with me. I couldn't believe it. Guy had an amazing voice. Mercy is about seeing people in need, which means you can't think about yourself all the time. I know it's hard. If you were the main character of every story, every minute of your life, we simply are not going to see these opportunities. If we are the star of the show, we're just not going to see it, man. It's going to be all about us. And that's not what Jesus was getting at when he said, blessed are the merciful. So we have to learn, we have to continue. We have to remember. And yes, some of us have to learn that we're not the star of the show all the time. And that we have to be available to see and pay attention to what's going on around us all the time. I mean, what else is so important? Think about it. What else do you have to do? I mean, for some of us, our time is running out. Not because we're sick, because we're old, you know? How much time do we need? When's it time to start? And I don't care where you are this morning, young or old or in between. It is not too late to make seeing mercy the thing that you do, the thing that you're good at. And it'd be a great way for us to live our life, because a happy and flourishing and a disciple of Jesus who's living their best life is going to see mercy. When Trader Joe's opened in Salmon Creek like a month or so ago, no, it was actually many months ago, but whatever, you get my drift. I walked into the store, as I was walking in, I saw a lady in a minivan who I could tell by the trajectory of her minivan, she was not going to make it to the parking spot. I just knew it. It was crowded. The parking lot's kind of small. She's trying to get around this landscaping deal and pull into the parking lot closest to it. And I thought, she's not going to make it. And I kind of stopped and kind of looked, and I was trying to, just whatever. I thought, she doesn't need me to do that. So I went to the store. 10 minutes later, I come out. She was absolutely high-centered on that landscaping area with one wheel completely off the ground. I don't know how she did it. The other one was in the landscaping, and she was just sitting in her car, and I just thought, I should have helped her. But I walked up to her window. I said, can I park your car for you? I'd really like to. It'd make me feel good, She goes, yes, please, right? So she got out of her nice minivan. I got into the seat, and her 12-year-old daughter's sitting shotgun. And I've never seen someone move so fast to the back of the van. I don't know that it was a husband-approved deal, but I got in the van and I parked it. And not that big of a deal, but it was potentially embarrassing. And by the way, I'm not using that example to say I'm all that great. In fact, I want to make sure they didn't ask me to speak on mercy because they thought, oh, Ken, you seem like a really merciful guy. Would you mind? It's my luck of the draw. I got this verse because this was the day that this verse was getting taught on. So I've given you 2 examples of me showing mercy, right? It's that's pretty much it. A couple more times, maybe. So I'm not an expert, but I'm learning like you are, that if I will open my eyes and look around, I will see opportunities for mercy. So mercy sees. The second thing I want to tell you is that mercy moves. When we are happy and flourishing and living our best life, we will move into the path of other people to be helpful. It's not just involving our eyes and our mind, but our action. If there's no action, there's no mercy. I know that's kind of mean and stringent, but let's just say that's the thing. Being merciful is doing merciful things. It isn't a feeling. It's not just acknowledging the need for mercy. If we are merciful, we aren't even in the ballpark unless our sleeves are rolled up, our feet are moving, and our minds are working. The cash is delivered. The relief is given. That's what mercy looks like. It mobilizes. And as I've been saying before, yeah, it is sometimes embarrassing. It takes some courage to be merciful. It's kind of hard to walk up to people and say, well, you look like you could use some help, And I feel sometimes a little, another example is one time a few years ago, I'm driving down the street. It's this time of year. I look over beside me and I see a car with a Christmas tree on top, and the Christmas tree actually was worth more money than the car. It was a real beater, And if I'm going to judge someone, I'm going to judge what you drive. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not, but I'm a car guy, so of course I am inside of my heart. And so I see these people driving, this really humble car with a Christmas tree on top, and the car was full of kids, and the kids were really happy. Man, the kids were happy. And I looked over and I'm judging them. I'm full out profiling, discriminating and breaking DEI rules all over the place. I was just for a second, I looked over, and then the thought came to me, yeah, well, maybe instead of judging the value of the car, maybe you should do something nice. So I rolled down my window. I said, hey, Christmas tree, huh? They're like, yeah, the kids are just happy. I said, this is weird, but I want to buy your Christmas tree. The wife kind of looked at her husband, and I didn't give him a choice. I already had cash in my hand. I reached out the window, and she reached out her window, and she grabbed the cash. It wasn't enough to change her life, probably more than enough to pay for the tree. And so, the lesson for me at that point was, yeah, you want to judge them or you want to give them mercy. And think about that when you go about your life, when you see people. You want to judge people and think about how you're the star of the show. My friend Dave, he was known for stuff like this, but I heard this story recently that Dave drove by someone, and on the side of the road, it was one of these pop-up homeless camps, and saw someone without shoes. So he pulls his car over. He gets out. He takes off his shoes and he walks over and he says, you want these shoes? And they said, yeah. They put the shoes on. He walked back to his car. Shoeless Joe's no longer shoeless. Now it's shoeless Dave getting his car and driving home. I thought, there's something simple about that. There's something simple about mercy that you and I are full on capable to show every day. Now, there's a need, and it's important that there's a corporate part to mercy too. I mean, hospitals, colleges, nonprofit organizations who their whole foundation and reason is to serve people who are in need. And those things are really important, and it's important for us to get behind them, like what was mentioned in the video about Kesed, that our red envelope Sunday coming up, where we get to support in this year a ministry called Mercy, which is really cool about how it wants to compassionately meet the needs of people in the poorest of places around the world. How we as a church can come together and put in some money to help them out. And giving to organizations financially and getting involved in organizations is critical. So if you want to think through a strategy to fix something that you see, you should do that. That's how all these things get started. And we should do that. And being involved in your church, like so many of you are, it's really important, that we do that and that we give to some of these things. We should keep doing that. But I want to remind you that mercy often, if it's not strategic, it's urgent. It's right now. It's, oh my gosh, did you see that? Do you see that? I wonder who is going to take care of that. And I think our mindset has to be maybe the star of this show is Jesus, and maybe I'm a part of that. Rather than who's going to fix that need, maybe it's you. Maybe that's the reason that you're coming across it. Maybe that's the reason my friend Dave saw the guy that needed shoes. A friend of mine, his name is Mike, and I don't know what happened to Mike, but one day he decided he was going to start making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for people he came across in the city where he lived. I don't know why. Maybe he was eating a really good sandwich. Who didn't like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? He's probably eating that sandwich and think, man, this is good. I made a good sandwich. The ratio's just right. The bread's perfect. Some good raspberry jam on there. It's just a perfect sandwich. Maybe he thought, I should make some more for these people. So basically what he started doing, I don't know how often, I don't know how many he made, but let's just say once a week or so, he would spend some time and make just a cooler full of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And he would go out and give away those sandwiches to whoever he could find that wanted a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I don't think he was all that careful about who he gave them to either. There's things like that I think for me are inspiring because I tend to be the star of my own show. And I like seeing examples like this. So mercy sees, follow me? Mercy sees, mercy moves, and mercy saves. Mercy sees, mercy moves, and mercy saves. Where were you, by the way, when mercy found you? I mean, think back to that part in your life, where you didn't know the love and the forgiveness of God. The disciples, and what did they say? Well, what did the disciples see in their experience? Well, they saw Jesus in so many examples. They saw blind Bartimaeus in Mark 10 who was screaming out loud, "Lord, have mercy on me." And the crowd tried to shush him, but he cried out louder, and Jesus then healed him. The Canaanite woman in Matthew chapter 15, "Lord, have mercy on me. My daughter is miserable. She's possessed by a demon." And then Jesus cast the demon out. The desperate dad in Mark chapter 9, he said, "My son is sick. Please, please have mercy on my son." And the Lord healed the boy. The 10 lepers in Luke, they called out saying, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." And they were all healed. There were so many more examples of mercy that the Apostle John said you couldn't even put it in a whole book. So many stories of what happened in Jesus' life. Jesus told the crowd, the disciples in Matthew 5, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy." By the way, I'm going to tell you how I found mercy. I was in my house, sitting on the toilet. I know. You're like, this dude is like TMI, right? I wasn't using the toilet. But I was an aspiring pro-level stoner at 15 years of age, right? Partying was my passion. And I didn't know any better from my family. That's just simply how I grew up and how I was raised, So I was just living what I thought was my best life, a small-time drug dealer and troublemaker. And earlier that week, a friend of mine, his name is Tim. Tim was a Jesus follower. He decided to tell me about Jesus. And I flat out denied him. Like, "Do you want to become a Christian?" And I was like, "No." But inside, I was, please God, give me one more chance. And a couple days later, I was home. My parents loved me so much, they gave me and my brothers, a kegerator. So I had lots of friends. And that's what I did after school, drank and smoked. So I drank and smoked. I went out to my mailbox. I got a letter signed by Jesus. It was some literature that my friend had gave me that explained the gospel of Jesus. And I was so amazed that God answered my prayer of one more chance. So I took that information. I went into the bathroom with my friends in the garage. I sat down on the toilet just to get alone, and I locked the door, and I read these words of God's love. I did it for me, man. I was done. It had a spot there where after reading these Bible verses, it said, if you want to follow Jesus and have your sins forgiven and have that mercy of God in your life, well, you can pray this prayer. So I'm 15. I'm crying, a little stoned. And I prayed this prayer to ask Jesus to come in, to forgive my sins, to give me new life. And that's where mercy met me, right there. Where were you when mercy found you? I know you've got your own story. That's mine. And there might be some people here this morning, and you may realize, I don't even have that story right now. I don't know what that story is for me. I don't know that I've ever had my sins forgiven. Titus, the book in the Bible, says he saved us, not because of works done by us in righteousness, but according to his own mercy. Hebrews says, let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. I want mercy in my life. Do you? Who wants mercy? Who needs mercy? Man, we all do. We all need mercy. Mercy sees. And I want you to know that mercy sees you, no matter who you are. God demonstrated his own love for us, even that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Mercy moves, and mercy moves to you. Because God loved you so much, he loved me so much. God loved the world so much that he gave his only Son. And whoever would believe in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. Mercy saves. You who is rich in mercy, out of the great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead through our trespasses, he made us alive. So do you need mercy? Ask Jesus. Do you need a fresh start that is driven by mercy? How about now? How about this morning? Why not you? You are worthy of God's mercy. His mercy is for you. His face is towards you. You are the object of his mercy. God sees you. He moves to us, and he promises to save us. Let's pray. Father, thank you for your goodness this morning. And we remember our own story. And Lord, each person here is going through this struggle of trying to live in this world and to trust you in ways, Lord, that can be challenging. So, Lord, I don't think there's probably anyone here that doesn't need a fresh look at mercy in our lives. Father, would you forgive us as we have walked and made so many mistakes and sins? Would you restore to us hope? And Lord, would you help us to be happy and flourishing? Lord, can we be blessed? And while we do that, we would be a blessing to others. Lord, help us to be mercy givers. And thank you for the mercy that you've shown us. We pray this in Jesus' name.